Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
And welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I'm joined by one of my best friends and an award-winning screenwriter for The Cat, Mrs. Jess Byard.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are you on this lovely evening?
Better than a woman being impaled by a giant penis turned into a drill.
Yeah, that's, I hope that everyone listening to this podcast is doing better than that lady.
Right. Yeah, because that's a thing that happened in this movie that we're going to be talking about. So, yeah, just open the podcast with the absolute weirdest fucking thing from this movie. And you know what? There's a lot of weird stuff from this movie. It's only an hour and 7 minutes long. We're talking about Tetsuo, the Iron Man.
もしもし。
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 So it is directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. Yeah, that's right. It stars... Oh, yeah. Well, if it's not right, it's not right, but I think it's pretty close. It stars Tomoro Taguchi, Kai Fujiwara, and Nobu Kanaoka. And the... Jesus, hold on. What am I doing here? And the synopsis... And the film centers around Tomoro Taguchi as the salaryman who gets turned into a giant metal monster and fucks his girlfriend with his drill penis. Doesn't that sound lovely? Doesn't that sound like a special film that we should be talking about to close out?
Wholesome movie.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, I honestly thought that this was the sequel to Iron Man 3, but what do I know? So this was...
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Tony Stark with just a
An Iron
giant
Man
drill
crossover.
penis. Yeah, I'd watch it. I mean, if he was drilling Gwyneth Paltrow and her
Pots.
goop, drilling Pepper Potts back to her fucking Goop website, sure. Which, by the way, if you read Goop, good for you. Don't.
I don't know why. Unless you're reading it for fun, like entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I get that.
I mean, look, like sticking eggs inside of yourself, probably not a good idea. Regardless of whether or not Gwyneth Paltrow tells you to do it, not a good idea, male or female. And if you're into ovipositing, I like, look, I'm not shaming you, but I'm talking about like rock eggs. Don't do it. It's just not a good idea. Because that's a thing that she said on her website that you should do. However, Jess, I am curious. This was something you wanted to watch. This is something I had never seen as well, and I was curious to watch it. What did you think watching Tetsuo the Iron Man for the first time?
Yeah, this movie creeped into my radar probably, I don't know, when I was a teenager, at some point, just getting into crazy horror subgenres. And cyberpunk is one that I'm not as familiar with as I'd like to, and this movie has kind of always been on my to-watch list, but I just never got around to it, for whatever reason. And so when you were like, well, what can we watch for body horror month that's not, the usual suspects? Tetsuo sounded like a great idea to me. It's funny.
Are you having second thoughts now?
No, I think that I liked this movie to an extent. It's an experimental surrealist film that is very much like a music video for a good majority of it, and so the plot is thin. I mean, it's what the salaryman accidentally runs over the metal fetishists who we meet at the beginning of the movie, and he and his girlfriend dump his body in the woods, but he's not quite dead, and then they decide to have sex in the woods while he dies, and so he comes back for revenge.
In quotations.
Right, so he comes back for revenge, and then it's just this weird back and forth between these two men while the salaryman becomes progressively more metal than flesh. And I was pretty engrossed in most of this movie. The sound design, the sound effects, I thought were fantastic. I thought that it was a really interesting, immersive environment, and that it's being a surreal movie, there's a lot of cartoony aspects to it, and a lot of that comes out in the sound design, even just with certain sound effects being strangely cartoonish, almost like, they're ripped right out of some kind of Looney Tune, Merry Melodies, whatever. But plot-wise, it's there's one there basically just to drive the movie forward, but it doesn't really matter. You're basically just watching this man turn into a machine. And I thought that the way that they did it was incredible. I mean, this movie came out in, 1989?
But you wouldn't be able to tell that considering how it is filmed in black and white.
No, it's black and white. It's like super low budget. I think they must have shot on some kind of. I don't think they shot on Super 8, but I know they obviously shot on some type of film. I kept seeing like little grains and hairs and stuff on the film that were just there from general wear and tear. But the look is just, there's so much texture to this movie, and you could feel, like, I just could like feel the environment. And there's a lot of Eraserhead in this movie. There's a lot of, you can see, Cronenberg's Videodrome. You can see various things that we know is body horror now sort of being developed here in this, cyberpunk, no budget 80s Japanese movie.
Yeah, it is very much and look, this is not to downplay the film or poo-poo.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster. You know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
The film or compare it to something else, but it very much is Japanese Eraserhead, which is not a bad thing. But if we're talking about films that you can draw close comparisons to, Eraserhead is the one that I just kept thinking about. It is a lot more fast-paced than Eraserhead. It is shorter than Eraserhead, and it lacks the narrative that Eraserhead has.
Well, I think that they're just too... I mean, while they're similar in kind of tone and visual aesthetic, I think that they're two vastly different stories. I would rather watch this than Eraserhead. Well, we'll disagree on that.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I have to leave this podcast now. You have spoken ill of the god, the man, the myth, the legend, David Lynch.
Yes.
I mean, look,
exactly.
Eraserhead is one of those films that I just can't wrap my mind around.
That's fair.
I like it a lot. We've done a podcast on it. If you want to check that one out, I want to say we did that one in 2017 for David Lynch month. Sorry. That was...
I missed it out.
You missed it. We even did Twin Peaks Firewalk with me. And,
man.
Yeah, that movie is... Boy. The scene at the what is it? The club is just... talk about grading. But look... Yeah, I know. I like David Lynch a lot, but there's some stuff that even I can't get past that I know that's my own me getting out of the way of myself. I will say about this film's design and kind of the structure of the narrative, it is very similar to other Japanese films that I have seen that are it's a very esoteric film in a way, and it's trying to have something to say. I'm not sure if it fully sticks the landing.
I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't think it really does.
Industrial, obviously.
Yes.
I think I was reading some reviews and whatever, just commentary and everything after I watched the movie, and they seem to draw a similar vague conclusion that I've drawn, which is sort of a industry left unchecked can consume the world type deal where it's like if you're, as a society, we're just relying more and more on these machines to do everything for us, and they're literally taking over every aspect of our lives, and without that, what do we do? But then the end of the movie kind of flips, and it's like the fetishist and the salaryman joining forces to, I guess, make everybody machine people. And this, I had a question. How does the machine people thing work? Is it like zombieism or werewolfism, where if you get like bit or scratched or whatever, you turn into a metal person?
I guess so, because the woman at the beginning of the film touches the pile of goo, not goo, like flesh and machinery, and becomes one with it.
Which I give this movie big props for being legitimately frightening.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of really for me, it wasn't frightening. It was more upsetting imagery.
Yes, I wasn't frightened, but just unsettling, unnerving, just distressing imagery. That it was
sound design
actually,
you mentioned, is just ugh.
It's constant. Now, I did really like the score, the soundtrack, whatever industrial music. Whatever tracks they had scoring this movie, I really dug. I thought I would like to track this soundtrack down if I can, but possibly
on vinyl.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everybody knows if it's not on vinyl, it's not worth listening to, right?
Pretty much.
There's another thing about this film that we can't overlook. We can't not bring up a lot of phallic imagery.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. So much so that the final shot of the film is...
a dick tank?
A dick tank, yeah. I'm assuming it's intentional. I mean, Tetsuo...
Oh,
and
yeah.
I guess we could just refer to him as Tetsuo, not the salary man, because he...
Yeah.
I guess is Tetsuo. I guess that's his name, but they never say it.
They just
in
refer
the
to him as the man.
Yeah,
well,
the man.
Tetsuo is what, the Japanese word for iron?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, yeah, I think it's just... But yeah, we would call him Tetsuo man, basically. But
there's a lot of phallic imagery. I mean, his dick becomes a giant drill.
Yeah, that's like right in the middle of the movie.
His girlfriend impales herself on his big spinning, drilldo. Drilldo. I saw a drilldo once. You get a dildo and you stick it on the end of a drill. Like those like life hacks where it's like you could take a scrubber brush and clean your pots and pans real quick, or you could take a dildo and turn it into a way to mix or to whip cream. You just stick it in a bowl and you whip some cream up and you got this smacking against the side of the bowl. It's really, again, I don't understand what the point of the phallic imagery is.
Well, I don't know.
It doesn't seem to have a purpose.
There's a lot, for me, there's a lot of Geiger imagery in this.
Oh, yeah.
And whereas Geiger, though, tends to be more female in its sex and general tone and emotion and feeling, whereas like you said, this is much more phallic and male-centered. And yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know how to take that. I don't know, and that's kind of where, surrealist and experimental movies in general are obviously supposed to be, they aren't telling you a story in the way that you're generally used to being told a story. And then add, 1989 Japan into that, and I don't know anything about 1980 Japan. I don't know, what industry was like there then. I don't know what exactly Japan, Japanese culture has always been more male-centered, male-focused, but I don't know. I have no guesses as to really what that means aside from the obvious, imagery of it.
Again, there is a lot of male-centric imagery, and it is a male-centric culture, and it's a very organized and focused, efficient and focused culture. When my wife and I went to Tokyo for vacation for honeymoon, everybody stood on the right-hand side of the escalator and walked up the left. There is no question in that. That's what you're supposed to do. No one does that here in the States, yet in Japan, if you did it, it was weird. And so I think some of this has to be kind of a, subverting of Japanese strict paternalistic culture. I think that has to be part of this film. Look, I'm not going to read too much into it because, it's not that I don't like doing that, but at the same time, I don't know if that's what the director was going for.
Yeah, no, and I don't know necessarily that that's what they were going for either. And David Lynch is a good example for that because he is notorious for not explaining things and not putting meaning on things because he doesn't want to cloud your mind and say, no, this is what it's meant. He wants you to just take the story and however you interpret it is what it means to you because, however you view art, however you view stories, once they become, once they come into the world, do they still belong to the artist or do they then belong to the consumer? That's a whole other conversation. So yeah, with this director, I feel like even if that's not what he was going for, I think that's...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
The interpretation, he wants people to look into this, I think, to not like for a specific meaning, but just to speculate and to, I don't know, sort of just expound on this strange universe that he's created.
Well, and it is a very interesting, captivating, disturbing universe that he has created, that Shinya Tsukamoto has created. And it's a universe that seemingly by the end of the film is going to be destroyed by Tetsuo and the fetishist, because they've decided that they are going to turn the earth back to rust. Just because. So, I mean, again, it's like, to your point, it is a film that I think, similar to Lynch, it doesn't want to be. Maybe it's not that it doesn't want to be picked apart, but I think that ultimately
it doesn't want to be assigned a meaning.
Yeah, and I think that benefits the film. The film benefits from that.
Agreed. And I do want to see the other two.
Yeah, agreed. I do as well.
And this movie, it's funny because the last movie I was talking with you about in this month was Kuso, right?
Which there's a lot of similarities.
There are. As I was watching this, I was like, okay, so I feel like Flying Lotus has definitely seen Tetsuo the Iron Man.
He has to have, right?
You would think, because there are some things in there that are very similar, but the thing is I feel like this movie did them the correct way and did them in a way that, like, is much, is just much better than the way it came out in Kuso, where they kind of took the weird sexual aspects of this movie and then just exaggerated them tenfold in Kuso and focused more on that than I think anything else.
Well, and in Kuso, you have that storyline where it's the woman crawling underground and she becomes like machinery at one point, and that has to be influenced by this.
Yeah, either Flying Lotus or David Firth, either one of them, maybe both of them are fans of this movie. But it's interesting that we've picked both of these movies to watch, and then they end up being have vastly different opinions on them.
Right. Well, and look, as kind of over the top and, crazy as this film is, because this film just kind of goes off the rails in the last 15 minutes. And completely. I mean, just weird things are happening. There's and honestly, some of what's going on in the last 10 minutes of the film, you can't not honestly even tell what's going on.
No,
which is fine.
Jump cut editing. There's a lot of throughout the entire movie, they special effects wise are, in my opinion, it's incredible. And a lot of it is obscured by black and white, which helps it. A lot of it is just stop motion and sped up film and different little editing tricks. But his costume, like everything that he is made of, looks real. He looks like he is turning into this Iron Man, and I can't imagine wearing any of that shit was at all comfortable.
Oh no.
So I mean, the effects team that went in to actually, and I'm sure I say team, and I'm sure it was probably like one or two people working on it, but it comes through really well, and I was mesmerized. Like, I would just watch this. As I was looking on Letterboxd and looking at different reviews, I saw somebody had mentioned they watched this movie matched up, or at least parts of this movie matched up with Portishead music. And I would absolutely do that. I think that this movie is one of those movies that would be fun, is a fun experiment to experiment with.
Yeah, because again, honestly, you could watch this movie without the subtitles turned on.
So fun fact, I totally didn't turn the subtitles on until like 25 minutes into the movie. Okay. I had them on, and there was some subtitles that never even showed up. Okay, well, I didn't feel like and once I turned them on, I was like, oh, they're talking now. And I'm like, wait, did I miss them talking before? No. So I don't know. And then once I was watching it with just subtitles, it didn't really seem to matter all that much. So yeah, I agree. Like, you could entirely watch this movie sans subtitles, not know a word of Japanese, and I think you would get probably just as much out of it had you actually watched it with subtitles.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. I went on Wikipedia and I looked up the plot of the film. I'm sure you probably did as well, which is fine. I mean, that's just, that's just the way it is. I usually do
with strange movies, just to make sure I was following correctly.
Or maybe if I missed something.
Right.
Yeah. And so that helped me understand what was going on because, I mean, ultimately there's not a lot of dialogue and some of it is so kind of esoteric and weird, and there's kind of like dream sequences and hallucinations, and there's a lot of really weird things going on that kind of just happen. It is a film that is almost better to be experienced than to be just kind of read about. Right?
Agreed.
It's a film that's experience. This is an experience watching this film. And look, on top of everything else, unlike some of the weird films that, I've watched, that you've watched, that I've done for the Kulturecast, film's hour and 7 minutes. Like, it's not even that big of a time commitment. Does it drag? Of course it does.
It does, and I did find I was pretty engrossed for like the first half, and then once it starts to get really going off the rails, like you said, like the last 15-20 minutes, I kind of, I started feeling myself check my phone and just kind of like, okay, what am I, this is just a bunch of nonsensical imagery at this point. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it.
Well, the climax of the film goes on for 10 minutes too long.
It does. Like, this movie could have actually just been 60 minutes and it would have been fine.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but it originally was 67 minutes long. Or not 67. Yes, 57 minutes. And some of it was minutes? I want to say it was like the original cut. The film is 57 minutes long.
Oh, okay.
And
that's weird.
And they ended up releasing it with, I want to say, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
You know what? I bet they probably had to do that just based on bullshit, like, feature runtime.
Oh, excuse me. No. The 67 minutes is the shortened version of the film.
Oh, it was longer.
Yeah, excuse me. I misspoke. There is a 77-minute version of the film.
No, I don't need to see that.
No.
Like, I would rewatch this movie another time, and I would like to see it. Like, I would I definitely will seek out those, matched up clips with Portishead and everything on YouTube that YouTube has to offer. Which I guess YouTube has to offer the movie. So if you don't have anywhere to check it out, you can watch it on YouTube.
It is on YouTube in its entirety.
Yep, and. So yeah, no, I thought I liked having this and Kuso back to back. Well, per se, back to back. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to go with Tetsuo. Definitely.
I completely agree. I mean, look, we had our problems with Kuso, and Kuso was not good. It just was not good. And, I mean, we gave it a pretty low rating. And, reading up on this film, learning about what it took to get this film made, I mean, these are all, like you've mentioned before, lots of these effects were clearly handmade. Mm-hmm. Stop motion animation is very heavily used. It was shot on 16 millimeter. 16, yeah. And apparently, Tsukamoto almost burned the negatives of the film.
Oh, wow.
Because of how such a bad experience it was making the film.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense. See, I would, I would really like to see, they're doing, everybody's doing these documentaries, making of documentaries now. They've got them for Pet Sematary and
making of RoboCop
and Hellraiser and all that stuff. I would totally watch like a 60-minute feature on the making of this movie.
I'd rather watch that than an hour-long making of RoboCop.
Yes, agreed.
Well, what the fuck? RoboCop was filmed in Dallas. Okay, what else?
In Dallas, and it was like made like. I'm sure it had its problems. It's a production, they all do. But this is like Tetsuo is your true DIY filmmaking at its like cyberpunkiest. And so I see a lot of like comparisons where Akira, the movie, would come out just a year later, although the manga had been out since like 1982. I've actually never watched Akira.
Me either.
So I can't make the same connections to it that a lot of people have. But that's again another one on my list. But the whole idea of the anthropomorphic people turn machine ideas are all still there, which I find fascinating. I like cyberpunk.
Yeah, so do I. I don't want to compare this to a bad film, but I saw a little bit of Johnny Mnemonic in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously,
Johnny
I mean,
Mnemonic.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking movie. Talking dolphin. I mean, the thing that I always think of when I think of cyberpunk is obviously Blade Runner. This has none of that.
No. Different kind of cyberpunk.
Yeah, completely different kind of cyberpunk. But it does have a lot of those things, those cyberpunk things to it. And this is not like an influencer on the genre. This is a film that was influenced by the genre.
Yeah.
Because this film came out, even if this film looks like it came out in the early 80s, it did not. This film came out after Blade Runner. So, and like you said, Akira came out a year before this did. So, it's...
I mean, Blade Runner, and that falls under the more, like, cyberpunk noir, where Tetsuo is definitely, if you're looking for body horror, Tetsuo works perfectly for that. There's a lot of it. I mean, and I know that's something that you've had kind of throughout this month ups and downs on as far as the level of what something actually is body horror, and I would say that this movie is 110% body horror.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, yeah, Antiviral, not much body horror. I actually realized something. I don't think I watched the right Brain Dead with Mike. We watched the Peter Jackson movie.
Oh, no.
Which is fine, because that's still body horror, and that movie's amazing.
Yes.
I think I got my wires crossed as to what you had suggested and what we ended up going with. So it's like, oh, Brain Dead. You mean like Peter Jackson? And I just... whatever. I'm an idiot. That's fine. But yeah, this month there has been only one film that I was a little disappointed by in regards to its quote-unquote body horror nature, and this film is not the one I was disappointed by. I was disappointed by Antiviral, because honestly, Antiviral is a film I could go without ever seeing again, because I did not like it very much. It was pretty boring and it didn't really have much to say, and it's disappointing that Brandon Cronenberg is not as great a filmmaker as his dad is, which, I mean, is to be expected, but, it is what it is.
Brain Damage is the movie you were looking for. By Frank Henenlotter.
Brain Damage. Yes, not Brain Dead or Dead Alive. But we did watch the right movie this week, because Tetsuo the Iron Man could not be confused with 2008's Iron Man from Disney.
It sure couldn't.
No, it sure could not. But again, I think ultimately at the end of the day, I really liked this film. It was an interesting film. Again, it almost verges on not a film and more of
an art piece.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of music video element in it. I mean, like we said, it's late 80s, so the MTV world is spilling over into other countries at this point. But yeah, no, like it's definitely, if you are not a person who doesn't enjoy the words experimental or art house when it comes to movies, then I would avoid this.
Or if you don't
this
like
is
to
much
read.
more punk experimental than it is art house. To me, art house is a little bit more subdued, but personal tastes. But yeah, I really dug this movie.
And if you don't like to read subtitles, this is not for you, because reading is not something I should have to do when I go see a movie.
Well, if you don't like to read the subtitles, like we said, you can turn them off.
Yeah, right? I don't like to read when I go to the movies. God, life must be hard. It really must. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it was an interesting movie. It was a good choice. It was a very good choice, and it's a film that I'm glad I watched, and I'm very curious to watch the other two films. The last of which came out in 2009, so a little bit of a gap. It went 1989, 1992, and then 2009. So
oh, nice.
A little bit of a gap there. So what would you give the film out of 5?
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah. I would say 3 out of 5 as well.
Like 3 out of 5 is my just kind of standard. I may or may never watch this movie ever again, but I had a decent time with some of it at least.
Sure. You had a decent time watching it the first time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would give it a 3 as well. It's an interesting film. It is very much inspired by those who came before it. I'm not sure how much it inspired those who came after, but it is definitely inspired by those who came before it, and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was an hour and 7 minutes, and it's not really a very big time commitment, and there you go. So when you are not on the Kulturecast, Jess, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard, and you can also find me on our brand new show, Chris, called The One Season Show.
Wait, we do a podcast together?
We do, not just this one. Like an actual one that's you and I co-hosting. That's me
true.
Guesting 3 out of 4 weeks of a month.
Whoa, now. Ooh, yikes, that was a little feisty. Good Lord. Woo, doggies.
But yeah, we just launched our show, The One Season Show, and where we tackle TV's shortest running television shows.
That's right. Shows that only lasted one season.
Mm-hmm. Or less.
Or less.
So yeah, we are starting with 1987's Werewolf, and you can check out that first episode right now.
Yeah, oneseasonshow.com. And I am on a veritable smorgasbord of podcasts, Kolchak Tapes, where I talk about Kolchak the Night Stalker, kolchaktapes.com, Chronicles from the Crypt, where I talk about Tales from the Crypt. That's at chroniclesftc.com. And Dreams for Sale, where I am joined by some of my buddies and we talk about Twilight Zone 1985. And you can find that over at twilightzone85.com. You can follow me on Twitter if that's your thing, at casualty_. Chris, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at Kulturecast. Big thanks as always to _91 for the song Thunderous, which is the music for the Kulturecast. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.